The city of Zithra stretched before Ethan Carter like nothing he had ever seen. Tall crystal towers caught the light of the twin suns, scattering rainbows across the streets below. The air shimmered faintly with a golden haze, and floating gardens hovered above bustling marketplaces. Strange melodic sounds drifted through the streets as Zitherians, tall, elegant beings with luminescent skin and multifaceted eyes, moved gracefully through their day. Ethan had arrived as part of a small Earth delegation, tasked with negotiating a trade agreement. Humans were rare visitors here, and most Zitherians treated them with polite curiosity. But to Ethan, Zithra felt alive in a way no human city ever had. Everything seemed to hum with energy, from the floating lamps to the liquid light canals that wound between the towers. He walked along one of these canals, observing the bustling crowds. Street vendors sold translucent fruits that glowed softly, while children chased hovering orbs that bobbed and flickered like tiny stars. Ethan smiled at the wonders around him, but his attention shifted when he heard a sudden shout. "Watch out! Look out!" He turned to see a group of Zitherian youths running through the street, laughing and playing. They were part of the annual Light Festival, a celebration of the city's founding. Their playful energy was contagious, but something about the scene made Ethan's stomach tighten. A young girl, no older than 12, had stepped into the path of a rolling ceremonial float. Its crystalline wheels glimmered, but it moved faster than anyone expected. She froze, her small hands raised instinctively to shield herself. Without thinking, Ethan dashed forward. He reached the girl just in time, pushing her out of the way. A loud crash followed as the float grazed the spot where she had been standing. The crowd gasped, You saved her?" A nearby Zitherian woman whispered, her eyes wide. The girl looked up at Ethan with shining eyes, her small frame trembling but unharmed. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know what would have happened." Ethan smiled, brushing off the attention. "Just doing what anyone would do," he said. But not everyone in the crowd was so casual. The girl's mother, High Chancellor Zarin, had been watching from the balcony above. A woman of striking presence, she radiated authority, her silver-hued skin glowing faintly under the twin suns. Her eyes, like polished sapphires, had studied Ethan as he acted. She stepped down from the balcony, her movements deliberate and commanding. "You intervened," she said, her voice calm but powerful. "Do you understand the consequences of your actions in our city?" Ethan blinked. I just wanted to make sure she was safe. That's all." Zarin's gaze softened slightly, though a faint furrow appeared on her brow. "In Zithra, such actions are rare. Humans, they do not understand our customs. Yet you acted without hesitation. That is unusual." Ethan felt a flush of pride mixed with nervousness. He had always believed in helping others, but being called unusual by an alien High Chancellor was a new experience. "I didn't think about customs," he admitted. "I just acted." Zarin nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is why you are interesting." She motioned for her attendants to escort Ethan to a private audience in the palace. As they walked, Ethan could not help but notice the grandeur of the city. The streets shimmered with light, the buildings seemed alive, and citizens moved with a confidence and grace he had never seen. Inside the palace, the crystal floors reflected the light in 1,000 patterns, and floating orbs illuminated the space with soft, warm light. Zarin led Ethan to a wide chamber filled with intricate decorations, hanging gardens, floating holograms of Zithra's history, and a large transparent dome showing the city outside. "You saved my daughter's life," Zarin began once they were alone. "That is not a small thing. Tell me, why did you do it?" Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "On Earth, we believe in helping others," he said. "If someone is in danger, we try to protect them. It's just human decency, I suppose." Zarin studied him, her expression unreadable. "Human decency. Interesting. And you did not hesitate even though this could have brought trouble upon yourself?" "I didn't think about trouble," Ethan said honestly. "I just wanted to make sure she was safe." A faint smile appeared on Zarin's lips. "You are bold, perhaps more than most humans." "I must admit I am intrigued." Ethan felt a flicker of relief. He had been nervous, worried that he had made a social mistake by acting impulsively. But Zarin's tone suggested curiosity rather than anger. "However," she continued, "bravery alone is not enough in Zithra. We must test your character further." Ethan tilted his head. "Test my character?" "Yes," Zarin said. "If you are to remain in our city, If you are to walk freely among our people, you must prove that your courage is matched by wisdom, empathy, and adaptability. Otherwise, your good intentions may lead to harm. Ethan nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. I'll do my best. Zarin gestured to the chamber doors. Then your first trial begins tomorrow. Prepare yourself. You will face challenges that test your understanding of our culture, your intellect, and your ability to solve problems creatively. As Ethan left the palace that evening, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The city around him seemed even more alive in the fading light. People were celebrating the festival, unaware of the delicate balance between danger and heroism that had just occurred. He found Lyra waiting outside the palace gates. She had been watching him all evening, her wide eyes curious and full of admiration. Are you really a human? She asked softly, stepping closer. Ethan laughed quietly. Yes, I am. And I'm glad I could help you today. She smiled, a small shy smile that lit up her face. Thank you, you are different from anyone I have ever met. I hope that's a good thing, Ethan said. Lyra nodded. It is. As they walked back toward the city square, Ethan thought about what lay ahead. A series of trials in a strange alien world, tests of mind, heart, and courage. It was unlike anything he had faced before. But he knew one thing. He would not hesitate to act when someone needed him. That, he realized, was the essence of humanity. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a spectrum of colors that seemed almost magical. Ethan looked around at Zithara and felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this world, so different and so alien, would soon learn that humans were capable not just of survival, but of extraordinary courage and kindness. And perhaps, he thought with a quiet smile, he would discover extraordinary things about himself along the way. The city's lights reflected in the canals as the night settled in. Somewhere above, the floating gardens glowed softly, and Ethan felt a calm determination growing within him. Tomorrow would bring tests, challenges, and questions he could not yet answer, but he knew he had taken the first step toward becoming more than just a visitor, perhaps a hero in a world far beyond his own. The morning sun of Zithara cast long golden streaks across the city. Ethan Carter awoke in the guest chambers of the palace, the soft glow of floating orbs reflecting off the walls. The events of yesterday replayed in his mind, the moment he had saved Lyra, the High Chancellor's piercing gaze, and her mysterious words about trials. He dressed quickly, his curiosity mixing with nervous energy. He had no idea what to expect. Zitharian culture was unlike anything he had ever known. Their cities, their people, even their way of thinking seemed designed to challenge anyone who was not native. And yet he felt a quiet confidence. Acting to protect another had been instinctive. Perhaps the upcoming trials would be no different. A chance to act, to think, and to prove himself. Outside the chamber, he found Lyra waiting. Her hair shimmered faintly in the morning light, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation. Good morning, she said softly. Are you ready for the first trial? Ethan gave a small smile. I don't even know what it is, but yes, I'll try my best. Lyra led him through a series of crystalline corridors, past glowing gardens and pools of water that reflected light in impossible ways. Eventually, they arrived at a wide chamber where Zarin and several attendants waited. The room itself seemed alive. Patterns of light shifted across the walls as if responding to the people inside. Welcome, Zarin said, her voice calm but commanding. Today you will face your first trial. It is not a test of strength but of intellect and understanding. You will navigate a labyrinth designed to challenge your perception and reasoning. Ethan glanced at the labyrinth. It appeared simple at first, a winding network of paths lined with glowing walls, but he quickly realized it was more than it seemed. The walls shifted subtly as he moved, forming patterns and symbols that had to be interpreted to find the correct path. You may begin, Zarin said, stepping aside. Ethan took a deep breath and entered. The labyrinth seemed to respond to his movements. Each turn presented a puzzle, a sequence of lights, a mirrored corridor, symbols that needed matching. He paused, observed, and tried different approaches. Each time he made a wrong choice, the labyrinth adjusted, subtly guiding him to reconsider. Hours seemed to pass, though it could have been minutes. Ethan's human problem-solving skills came into play. Where Zitharians might rely on instinct or intuition, he applied logic, pattern recognition, and creativity. He noticed the symbols often represented abstract ideas rather than literal directions. By thinking outside the box, he moved closer to the center of the labyrinth. Finally, he reached a circular chamber bathed in soft golden light. At its center floated a crystal orb. Touching it, he felt a small pulse, and a soft voice echoed in the chamber. "You have seen beyond the surface. You understand that thinking is as important as action." Ethan smiled, feeling a rush of relief. He had passed the first test. When he emerged, Zarin was waiting. "You have done well," she said. "Few humans would persist so patiently. Your mind adapts even in ways unfamiliar to us." Ethan nodded. "Thank you. I just tried to stay calm and think carefully." Zarin's expression softened slightly. "That is exactly what we hoped to see." The second trial came later that day. It tested empathy and emotional understanding. Zitherians communicated not only through speech but also through subtle bioluminescent changes in their skin, colors shifting with emotion. Ethan's task was to negotiate a small dispute between two young Zitherians who had accidentally damaged a public garden. At first, it seemed simple, but he quickly realized that understanding the emotions behind their words was more challenging than the conflict itself. One child's skin glowed a deep red, signaling frustration, while the other pulsed a pale blue, showing fear. Ethan listened carefully, spoke gently, and suggested a solution that allowed both children to restore the garden together while learning from their mistake. Zarin observed silently, her glowing eyes flicking between Ethan and the children. When he finished, the children's skin shifted to soft green, a sign of harmony and happiness. "You understand that leadership is not about commanding, but about guiding," Zarin said. "Many humans would have ignored the feelings, yet you considered them. That is admirable." Ethan felt a quiet sense of pride. Each trial was teaching him more about Zitherians, and he was learning about himself in the process. Humans often relied on action, but here he found that observation, patience, and understanding could be just as powerful. The third trial was perhaps the most difficult. Zarin led him to a terrace overlooking a vast valley. Strange crystalline formations rose from the ground, their sharp edges catching the sunlight. She handed him a device that resembled a compass. "You must navigate this field to retrieve 3 energy crystals," she said. "But you may only take the path that aligns with the harmony of the crystals. Force will not help you. Only observation and reasoning will lead you safely." Ethan studied the field. The crystals emitted faint pulses of light, each with a distinct rhythm. Walking carelessly could trigger traps or alarms. He realized he needed to follow the subtle patterns of the light, adjusting his path with patience and careful timing. Step by step, he moved through the field. Each crystal he collected required him to think differently. One demanded speed, another precision, and the third careful observation. He adapted, using his human intuition and creativity to succeed. By the time he returned to Zarin, he held all 3 crystals in his hand. "Impressive," Zarin said. "You do not rely solely on strength or speed. You adapt and you understand the importance of timing, observation, and patience. These are qualities that Zitherians value greatly." Ethan nodded, feeling the exhaustion of the day but also the thrill of accomplishment. Finally, Zarin led him to a quiet garden where Lyra waited. The young girl's eyes lit up as she saw him approach. "You did it," she exclaimed. Ethan smiled. "It wasn't easy, but I learned a lot," Lyra giggled. "You're different from other humans. You don't just think about yourself." Ethan's heart warmed. "I guess that's part of being human." Zarin stepped forward, her gaze calm and thoughtful. "You have shown courage, intelligence, empathy, and adaptability. Few humans would possess all these qualities in balance. That is why you are interesting, Ethan Carter. You are not just a guest in our city. You have the potential to become someone who strengthens it." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. He had not expected recognition for simply being himself, and yet Zarin's words resonated deeply. In a world so different where humans were often underestimated, he had proven that their qualities, curiosity, compassion, and creativity, could make a real difference. Lyra stepped closer to Zarin. "Mother, do you think he will stay with us?" Zarin's eyes softened. "That depends on him. But he has shown the promise that Zitherians admire, the courage to act, the wisdom to think, and the heart to care." Ethan looked around at the palace, the gardens, and the city beyond. He realized that his journey had only just begun. Zithra was a world of beauty, wonder, and challenge. Here he could not rely on strength or familiarity. He would need to think, to observe, to adapt, and in doing so, he might discover more about himself than he had ever known. As the sun set behind the floating spires, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Ethan felt a quiet determination. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new challenges, and perhaps new friendships. But he knew one thing. He had already proven that humans, even in an alien world, could act with courage, empathy, and ingenuity. The morning on Zythera was quiet, yet alive with the hum of the city. Ethan Carter stepped onto the balcony of the palace, stretching his arms as he watched the twin suns rise over the glowing spires. Yesterday's trials had tested him in ways he had never imagined, and though he had passed them, he felt a new weight settling in his chest, a responsibility to do more than simply survive here. Lyra appeared beside him, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Good morning, Ethan," she said softly. "You look like you've been thinking all night." "I have," Ethan admitted. "There's so much to learn about this place." "And about myself," Lyra smiled. "Come with me. I want to show you something." They left the palace, moving through streets alive with light and motion. Zytherians passed by, some nodding and greeting, their skin glowing faintly with soft patterns. Ethan noticed how attuned they were to each other's emotions, how even small gestures were filled with meaning. He felt both awe and humility. He was a stranger in this world, yet Zarin had already shown him respect. Lyra led him to a floating garden near the palace edge, a place of calm away from the bustle. Crystalline flowers shimmered in shades of blue and green, and small streams of liquid light wound through the paths. Ethan breathed in the alien scents, feeling a rare peace. "This is one of my favorite places," Lyra said. "It helps me think and it reminds me of our city's history. Scytherians learn a lot from nature, how patterns repeat, how everything connects. Humans, you do that too, don't you?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, though maybe not as elegantly as you. We study nature to understand problems and find solutions." Lyra tilted her head. "You're good at that. I noticed during the trials. You think differently from most Zytherians." Ethan smiled. "I guess that's part of being human. We rely on ideas and imagination." They walked along the crystal paths, laughing quietly as small, luminescent creatures darted around them. But soon Ethan's curiosity drew him to the edge of the garden, where he could see the city beyond. In the distance, a faint shimmer disturbed the horizon. The light seemed uneven, shifting strangely across the crystalline towers. "Do you see that?" he asked. Lyra's expression changed. She stepped closer. "That is unusual. Zythera's storms rarely form like that. It could be a crystal storm, but it is moving faster than normal. That area is usually safe." Ethan frowned. "A storm? How dangerous can it be?" Lyra hesitated. "Very. Crystal storms are rare but powerful. They can shatter buildings, disrupt energy flows, and injure people. Usually the city has time to prepare, but this one is unpredictable." Ethan's mind began to race. "Is there a way to stop it or protect the city?" Lyra shook her head. "Not by us alone. Zytherians have methods, but humans, you might see solutions we do not." "Your perspective is different," Ethan nodded. "Then we should try. I want to help." For the next few hours, they explored the city, gathering information. Ethan studied the crystal formations, observing how light and energy moved through the structures. He asked questions, took notes, and tried to understand the natural rhythms of the city. Lyra guided him, explaining the subtle details of Zytherian energy flows, how their buildings were designed to absorb and redirect energy, and how the storms could interact with these flows. By midday, they returned to the palace where Zarin awaited. She had been observing Ethan's exploration with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You have seen the disturbance," she said calmly. "Most humans would have ignored it or been afraid. Yet you studied it, that is promising." Ethan explained what he had observed. "The storm is moving unusually fast. If it reaches the city at this pace, it could damage several districts. But I think we can redirect its energy, reduce the impact. It will require both your technology and some human problem-solving." Zarin raised an eyebrow. "Explain." He walked her through his observations. "Your city is designed to handle energy fluctuations, but the patterns are consistent. This storm is irregular. By adjusting the energy channels and using a series of reflective surfaces, we can guide the storm away from critical areas. It's a combination of human engineering and Zytherian knowledge." Lyra watched with wide eyes. "Do you really think it will work?" Ethan shrugged. I don't know for certain, but it's worth trying. We have to act fast. Zarin considered his words carefully. Then for the first time she smiled faintly. You're bold, Ethan Carter. Not only brave, but clever. Humans rarely offer solutions, they often panic. Yet you think that is a strength Zitherians often lack. Together they gathered the city engineers and planners. Ethan explained his idea again, using simple diagrams and examples. Zitherian scientists studied his suggestions, initially skeptical, but gradually they began to see the logic. He proposed minor adjustments to energy channels, placement of reflective crystals, and coordination of citywide energy flows to divert the storm. Lyra assisted, helping translate his concepts into the Zitherian framework. Citizens watched curiously as humans and Zitherians worked side by side, observing patterns, testing reflections, and fine-tuning the plan. As the day passed, the storm approached. A low hum filled the city, the light shifting unnaturally across buildings. Citizens paused, unsure of what to expect. But Ethan remained calm, guiding the Zitherians and giving clear instructions. He encouraged Lyra and the young engineers, showing patience and confidence that spread through the group. By evening, the first edge of the storm reached the city. Crystalline shards swirled in the sky, glowing with raw energy. Many would have panicked, but Ethan's calm focus steadied the team. They implemented the adjustments he had designed, redirecting energy flows and reflecting the storm away from densely populated areas. The city held. Structures swayed slightly, but no major damage occurred. Citizens cheered cautiously, realizing that the disaster had been mitigated. Zitherian scientists approached Ethan, their glowing eyes filled with admiration. "You have saved us," one said. "Your methods. They are unlike anything we have tried. Human reasoning. It is powerful." Zarin stepped forward, her silver-hued skin glowing warmly. She placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You have done more than survive trials. You have proven that humans, when guided by courage and wisdom, can protect life and inspire trust. That is rare among all beings." Ethan shook his head. "I couldn't have done it alone. Lyra, your guidance made this possible. And the engineers, they were amazing." Lyra smiled brightly. "You are modest, but I'm glad we did it together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in hues of orange and purple, Ethan felt a deep sense of belonging. Zithera was still alien, still challenging, but he had begun to understand it, and himself. He realized that humans, often underestimated, could offer unique solutions when facing new and complex problems. Zarin watched silently as Ethan and Lyra walked through the recovering city. "He is remarkable," she murmured to herself. "Not only brave, but insightful. Perhaps he is exactly what this city needs." Ethan looked at Lyra, feeling a warmth of friendship he had not expected. "Do you think the city will be okay?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes, you helped more than anyone realized. You made us stronger, Ethan. Zithera needed someone like you." For the first time, Ethan understood the truth behind Zarin's words about humans. Courage alone was not enough. Empathy, intelligence, creativity, and determination, these were the qualities that could make a real difference. And in a world as extraordinary as Zithera, humans had the potential to be more than visitors. They could be heroes. That night, as the twin suns disappeared and the city's lights glimmered like stars, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had faced challenges, learned and discovered a new kind of strength within himself. And somewhere high in the palace, Zarin observed him, her mind turning over possibilities, her admiration growing for the unusual human who had proven that bravery and wisdom could walk hand in hand. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the city's hum. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new discoveries, and perhaps even greater challenges. But he was ready. Humans were not only survivors, they were problem solvers, thinkers, and protectors. And here on this strange and beautiful planet, that fact had never been more important. The morning dawned with a tension that could be felt in every corner of Zithera. Ethan Carter awoke to the distant hum of the city, but today it was different, sharper, urgent. The crystalline towers reflected the first rays of the twin suns with an unusual shimmer, and the air carried the faint crackle of approaching energy. He dressed quickly, his mind racing. Yesterday's observations had predicted the storm, but now it was clear. The crystal storm had arrived sooner and with greater intensity than anyone expected. Lyra met him at the palace gates, her expression serious. Ethan, the storm is moving faster than we thought. We need to act immediately. I'm ready, Ethan said, adjusting his sleeves. Let's go. They moved through the streets, which were already bustling with activity. Citizens hurried to secure their homes. Floating vehicles zipped through the air, and engineers carried tools and materials to reinforce structures. Yet fear lingered in the glowing eyes of many Zitherians. For them, crystal storms were rare and dangerous. For Ethan, it was a problem to be solved. They reached the central energy hub of the city, a massive crystal array at the heart of Zithera that regulated energy flows across the towers. Zitherian engineers had already begun preparations, but the storm's power was unpredictable, and the city's automated systems struggled to adapt. Ethan studied the patterns. We need to stabilize the main conduits first, he said. If we can redirect the energy from the storm through these channels, we can protect the central districts and reduce damage elsewhere. A group of engineers nodded, following his lead. Lyra helped relay instructions, her bioluminescent skin pulsing in rhythm with the energy flows, translating his human concepts into Zitherian understanding. Step by step, they worked together. Ethan instructed the engineers to adjust reflective panels, reposition energy absorbers, and fine-tune the flow of power through the city's crystalline channels. Each adjustment required precision and timing. If they miscalculated, the storm could overwhelm the conduits, causing catastrophic damage. The first waves of the storm hit as the twin suns rose higher in the sky. Crystal shards spun violently through the air, catching the sunlight and casting dancing reflections across the city. The sound was unlike anything Ethan had ever heard, a high-pitched, resonating hum that made his teeth vibrate. Citizens scattered, but the engineers stayed, working under Ethan's calm guidance. Focus on the north channel, he shouted over the roar. Divert the energy to the secondary conduits and align the reflective panels at 30 degrees. Lyra assisted by monitoring the energy pulses, her skin glowing a steady blue. It's working. The energy is stabilizing. Ethan felt a surge of hope. Good, keep it steady. Don't let the flow fluctuate more than 5%. For hours they worked tirelessly, coordinating the efforts of humans and Zitherians. Ethan moved from panel to panel, adjusting angles, checking conduits, and giving encouragement. He noticed how the citizens began to respond to his calm determination. Where fear had once dominated, now there was cooperation, focus, and trust. At one point, a young Zitherian engineer froze, terrified as a shard of crystal spun dangerously close. Ethan rushed forward, shielding the child with his body, and together they adjusted the panel just in time. The shard veered off harmlessly, you see, Ethan said, breathing heavily. If we stay focused and help each other, we can manage this. The storm intensified in the late afternoon. Winds of energy swept through the city, shaking towers and causing minor fissures in the streets. But the team had grown more confident, and Ethan's guidance kept them coordinated. Lyra stayed close, relaying information and assisting with critical calculations. She watched Ethan, her admiration growing. You're incredible, she said softly. Humans, you think differently, but it works. It really works. Ethan smiled, even as sweat dripped down his forehead. It's not just me. We're working together. That's what matters. By evening, the central districts had stabilized. The storm still raged on the outskirts, but the energy redirection system Ethan had implemented held firm. Buildings that would have shattered remained intact, and citizens began to breathe easier. Zarin appeared at the central hub, her silver-hued skin glowing faintly. She moved swiftly through the chaos, her presence commanding attention. Ethan Carter, she said, her voice steady over the storm's roar. You have done more than any human or Zitherian expected. You have saved lives through courage, intellect, and calm leadership. Ethan shook his head. I couldn't have done it without your people. Everyone worked together. That's what made it possible. Zarin's gaze softened. Perhaps. But few would have taken initiative, observed, and acted as quickly as you did. You have shown what humans can achieve, not through force, but through understanding, creativity, and compassion. Lyra stepped closer to Ethan. Mother, he's amazing. I've never seen anyone think so clearly during a crisis. Zarin's eyes glimmered. Indeed, perhaps we have underestimated the potential of humans. As the twin suns set, the storm began to recede. The city was battered but safe. Citizens emerged cautiously from their homes. marveling at the success of the human and Zytherian cooperation. Ethan, exhausted but satisfied, looked over the city. The glowing towers reflected the fading light, and the streets were filled with gratitude and relief. Lyra linked her arm with his. "We did it," she said. "You really helped everyone, Ethan. They'll remember this day." Ethan nodded, feeling warmth spread through him. "I just did what I thought was right. That's what humans do." Zarin approached once more, her eyes meeting his. "You have proven that courage and wisdom are not bound by species. Humans, often underestimated, can lead, protect, and inspire. That is why I respect you, Ethan Carter." Ethan felt a strange pride, deeper than any he had known. Respect, recognition, and trust from being so different from himself. It was a validation of everything he believed about human potential. The city slowly returned to normal. Repairs would be needed, but the crisis had been managed. Ethan spent the evening walking through the streets with Lyra, helping wherever he could and observing the citizens' reactions. Many thanked him personally, their glowing skins reflecting happiness and relief. For the first time, Ethan truly understood the meaning of being a hero, not through violence, but through courage, intellect, and the willingness to help others. Zytherians had challenged him, tested him, and ultimately learned from him as well. That night, as he returned to the palace, he found Zarin waiting in the balcony garden. The twin moons had risen, casting silver light over the crystal spires. "You have done more than survive trials," she said quietly. "You have proven the value of humans in ways we could not imagine. Your actions today will be remembered for generations." Ethan bowed his head slightly. "Thank you, High Chancellor. I only did what anyone would do if they were in my place." Zarin smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but not many would have acted with such clarity, such compassion, and such courage. That is why you are remarkable." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. The storm had tested him in ways he never expected. It had pushed him to think, to lead, and to protect. And through it all, he had discovered that human qualities, curiosity, empathy, and ingenuity, were more powerful than many believed. Lyra joined them quietly, her eyes shining. "You've changed things today, Ethan. Not just the city, but us too." Ethan looked at her and then at Zarin. "Maybe we can keep changing things. Together." Zarin's eyes glimmered. "Perhaps, humans, you may teach us more than we ever imagined." As the city settled under the twin moons, Ethan felt a sense of belonging unlike anything he had experienced. Zythera was still alien, still full of challenges, but he was no longer just a visitor. He had earned respect, forged friendships, and proved that humans could be more than outsiders. They could be heroes. And somewhere high in the palace, Zarin's thoughts lingered on him, a mix of admiration and curiosity. The human who had taken the storm in stride had shown her that courage and wisdom were not bound by species. Perhaps, she thought, there was a future in which humans and Zytherians could learn from each other in ways she had never dreamed. Ethan, exhausted but exhilarated, stood on the balcony with Lyra, looking out over the city. The crisis had passed, but the adventure and the journey of understanding was far from over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to prove that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons or power, but in courage, intelligence, and heart. The morning after the storm was calm, almost serene. Zythera's twin suns rose over the city, casting gentle light across the crystal spires and floating gardens. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint hum of residual energy from the previous day's crisis. Ethan Carter stepped onto the palace balcony, looking out over the city he had helped protect. Streets were alive again, not with fear, but with activity and cautious celebration. Citizens were repairing minor damages, sharing stories of the storm, and quietly acknowledging the bravery and guidance of a human among them. Lyra joined him, her expression thoughtful. "Ethan, the city talks about what you did. They say humans can be more than we imagined." Ethan chuckled softly. "I didn't do it alone. Your people were amazing. I just helped where I could." Lyra shook her head. "No, it's more than that. You inspired them. You didn't just protect the city. You made people believe in themselves." Ethan looked at her, feeling warmth and pride. "Then I'm glad. That's all I could hope for." As they walked through the palace gardens, High Chancellor Zarin appeared. Her presence was commanding yet calm, her silver-hued skin shimmering softly in the morning light. Ethan felt a familiar mixture of respect and nervousness. Her admiration yesterday had been clear, but today something felt different, final, decisive. "Ethan Carter," Zarin said, her voice echoing slightly in the open garden. "You have done more than prove your courage or intelligence. You have saved Zithera from disaster, and in doing so you have shown qualities we value greatly: wisdom, empathy, and unwavering determination." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, High Chancellor. I only acted as anyone should. When people are in danger, we help them." Zarin smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but few do so with the balance of mind and heart that you have displayed. Humans are often underestimated, yet you have proven that courage is not bound by species, and that intelligence and empathy can achieve more than power alone." Ethan felt a sense of honor he had never experienced: respect from Zitherians, recognition from a High Chancellor, and trust from the citizens. He realized that his actions had not only helped the city but had bridged the gap between two very different worlds. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes bright. "Mother, I think Ethan should stay. He belongs here, at least among us." Zarin studied her daughter, then turned back to Ethan. "You have shown qualities that are rare even among our own people. I formally acknowledge you as a trusted ally of Zithera. You are welcome here, with full recognition of your contributions." Ethan felt a rush of emotion. I'm honored. "Thank you. I promise to continue helping, to learn, and to do what I can for your people." Zarin nodded. "Your promise is sufficient. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions have already spoken volumes." For the next few hours, the city celebrated quietly, acknowledging the efforts of all who had helped. Citizens came forward to thank Ethan personally, their glowing skin pulsing in patterns of gratitude. Engineers and planners who had worked alongside him were eager to share insights, and Ethan listened, learning more about Zitherian culture and engineering. Lyra guided him through the streets, pointing out areas that had recovered thanks to the energy redirection he had implemented. "See," she said, "everything is working. Your ideas save not just buildings but lives." Ethan smiled. "It's amazing to see it all come together. You have a remarkable city, Lyra. I'm just glad I could help." As the day continued, Zarin invited Ethan to a private council meeting. She wanted to discuss the future, not just of the city, but of human-Zitherian relations. The council chamber was quiet, the light reflecting off crystal walls and hovering gardens, casting rainbows across the floor. "You have proven your worth," Zarin began, "and in doing so you have changed the way we view humans. Your presence here has shown us that cooperation, understanding, and courage can bridge worlds." Ethan listened, humbled. "I never expected that. I just wanted to do the right thing." Zarin smiled. "Sometimes doing the right thing is enough to change history. You have not only protected our city but have inspired our people. I wish for a partnership of minds and hearts, not for domination, but for mutual growth." Ethan considered her words. "I'd be honored. I think humans and Zitherians have a lot to learn from each other." Lyra stood nearby, glowing softly. "I hope this is just the beginning. You've shown us that humans can think in ways we never imagined. I think you can help us in many ways yet." Ethan nodded. "I'll do my best." As the conversation continued, Zarin's admiration became clear. She valued intelligence, courage, and integrity, qualities that Ethan embodied. It was a recognition not of conquest or power, but of character. And that respect, he realized, was far more meaningful than any title or reward. By evening, the council meeting ended. Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, the city below shimmering with light and life. The twin moons rose, casting silver patterns on the crystal streets, and the citizens moved with a renewed sense of confidence and hope. "You've changed everything," Lyra said quietly. "Not just the city, but how people see humans." "I'm proud of you," Ethan smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "I'm proud of us. We did it together, humans and Zitherians side by side." Lyra looked at him, her glowing skin pulsing softly with joy. I think people will remember this day forever. And you'll be part of our history, Ethan." Ethan laughed softly. "History is something we all make together. I'm glad I could be part of yours." As they returned to the palace, Zarin awaited them once more. She looked at Ethan with a mixture of respect and genuine admiration. "Ethan Carter, you have shown that humans are capable of great things. I trust that you will continue to act with the same courage, wisdom, and compassion that you have displayed. You are welcome in Zithra not as a visitor but as an ally, a friend, and perhaps more. Ethan felt a profound sense of connection. He realized that respect, trust, and collaboration were stronger than fear, prejudice, or misunderstanding. Humans, he understood, could inspire greatness not by strength but by integrity, intelligence, and empathy. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. "We've only just begun," she said. "There are so many things I want to show you, so much we can do together." Ethan looked out over the city, breathing in the cool night air. "I'm ready. For everything." Zaren's voice followed them softly, almost a whisper. "Humans may teach us much more than we ever imagined, and perhaps in them we will find a future of cooperation, understanding, and hope." That night, Zythera slept peacefully, the crystal towers reflecting the soft light of the twin moons. The city had faced danger yet survived thanks to courage, intelligence, and collaboration. And in the palace gardens, a human named Ethan Carter had found not only respect and friendship, but a place among the stars, in a world he had once thought alien. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new adventures. But for now there was peace and a quiet certainty that humans, with their unique qualities, could inspire hope, protect life, and build bridges across worlds. Ethan stood silently in the gardens, watching the city glow. He knew that his journey had only begun. Zithra was a world of wonder, challenge, and possibility, and he was ready to face it, side by side with friends like Lyra, and with the respect of those who had once doubted him. And somewhere high in the palace, Zaren watched him, her thoughts full of admiration and cautious hope. The human who had faced storms, crises, and cultural challenges with courage and wisdom had proven one undeniable truth. Humans, even far from Earth, could be heroes.